Hello everybody, this is Wally at Wally Gel Blasting, and today we're going to be having a look at a gas blowback gel blaster pistol. So this one here specifically is a Glock 19 from WeTech. WeTech is a pretty good brand, I would recommend them. So today we're going to be having a look at some of the basics of operating one, of maintaining one, and buying for one.
So let's get into it. So on the Glock model, and this should apply for a lot of other pistols, at the top you have your slide. So this slide actually contains all the mechanisms and things to require to have the pistol function. This bottom part also contains some components as the hammer housing, and for functionality's sake you have a Picatinny rail just here,
which you can attach a flashlight to, or a grenade launcher if you want, but we won't be having a look at that today. So, basic functionalities here: you have your slide, you have your slide lock, which is this little button here. You'll see if I push this down, then the slide shoots forward. Now, this does not normally lock unless you have an empty magazine in it, as you just saw, so don't panic if you try messing around with it and it doesn't lock. However, when you load in a mag, and we'll go around some of the features of that later, you just push the slide back and you'll see the lock pushes it up, causing the slide to lock. Now, this will only happen if you have an empty magazine. This empty magazine also helps to notify you when you are out of gels, in which you need to reload. Now, some other features here is the mag release just here, this little button on the grip. If you push in the mag, you'll see that it stays in place until you press this, the little mag release, and then you can freely take out the mag. You should not need to press the mag release to put it in, as it will not lock. As soon as you release it and push it in, then it will lock. Now, we also have some other features here. Let me just take this out. As you can see, there's like a little extra bit there on the trigger. This is just as a secondary safety, or actually your main safety, which helps you to not be able to shoot when the gun accidentally goes under some bumps, or you drop it or something, it won't accidentally fire. Now, to actually fire though, you will have to push in that little bit, and then you will be able to pull the trigger fully. Alrighty, so we're going to have a look at disassembling now. Specifically on this Glock 19 pistol from WeTech, you push down these two little pins here on both sides and then just rack the slide back. There you go. Now you can see this slide has come off the pistol. Let's have a look at some of the internal parts first. So, on the slide, that's the way you saw it previously, you have a return spring, which is this little spring that sits just at the front here through that hole there, the secondary hole here, not the barrel. So to actually take it off, you just pull out this part here. As you can see, it kind of comes out here. You just go lift that up a bit and then it should pop right out. Then to get the rest of the components out, you can see that there's like a little nib here. You just gotta lift that up slightly, the whole thing, push it forward, and then you can see the outer barrel as well as the inner barrel is loose. To get that out, you just lift it up. As you can see here, you just lift it up, out, and then you have the outer barrel out. Alright, so in the outer barrel assembly, you will see that there is a loose part here, which is your inner barrel. Your inner barrel will come out just freely, just like before. Now, this is actually what is going to push the gel, not push the gel, which will house the gel once it is pushed up and house the gas to shoot the gel. Alright, so then the rest of the parts here, this is the little part that is going to supply gas to the inner barrel. And to actually get that off, it is a bit of a tricky system. Alright, so what you're going to need to do to take this down further, as you can see, there's a little screw just there, a little black one just there. You're just going to take a screwdriver. This is just a normal style screwdriver. and you can just gently take that off, and this is going to expose your blowback housing. Now this, if you ever have problems with gas leaking or anything else involving the gas, like for some reason it's not shooting the gel properly and you think it's the gas, then this would be a good place to start. So you take that screw out, and then you gotta gently just wiggle this part out. There we go. So as you can see, there is the bare slide now. There's no other functional components in here. However, you gotta make sure that this little part, which is almost purely decorational, which sits right there, this part can fall out very easily, and you don't want that. So just make sure that this part is in the same spot before you put the pistol together again. Now in your blowback housing, you can see on the other side here, there is these two grooves. Now these two grooves are supposed to both have springs in them. However, I seem to have lost one of them. These are the springs that allow this blowback housing and the nozzle to push forward and then come back as well. So there you go, those springs just sit nicely there. And this is your end plate, which sits at the back. Oh, there goes that part that I told you. And this plate just sits at the back here, and that just slides in like that. Now I have had to replace this housing, which is why it is silver compared to the other parts which are black. Make sure the spring is there in order springs, depending on your model. The end cap has two of these little notches. These are cow blowback housings. So you just gotta push that part in there so it lines up. And then you will take this part that I told you about earlier, slide that into its place. Alrighty, so bit of advice, make sure that that spring there is in its actual position. You will take your end cap, pop your end cap into that little pin there. So as you can see, these two will just match on like that. And now the tricky part is to make sure that this part that comes off, as I've shown you before, stays there. So that can be a real nuisance. Just take your time with it, and you're just going to take all of this stuff and press it in. So as you can see, this is in its place, the end cap is in its place, and the blowback housing is secured. So what you then want to make sure is you grab your your screw that you took out earlier, and the same screwdriver, and make sure that when you put in the screw that you do not cross thread the holes. So what cross threading means is that you accidentally angle the screw wrong, and then it ends up destroying the thread, and you do not want that because that can cause you to have to buy a new slide. Now you don't want to make this too tight. It is unnecessary to over tighten it, but just make sure it's secure and it won't move when you are out on the field. Now to put these back together again, you just take your outer barrel, take your inner barrel, slot them in, and you will see that there's two little pins there. There's one pin there, and then there's one pin on this side here. You just want to make sure that that pin is in that little channel there. Now this is the Strike Industries 9x19mm outer barrel. Now that 9x19mm doesn't actually mean much other than it is meant for a pistol like this. So then to make sure, just make sure that this is secured, take your outer barrel and your inner barrel assembly, slot it into the first hole, the biggest hole on the slide there. Now because this is the Strike Industries outer barrel, it does stick out quite a bit. My old outer barrel, which is broken, does not come out that far. It just depends on the model again. So those should be fairly loose. The outer barrel should stay where it is, but the inner barrel, once you move it, it should move the entire assembly. Then what you want to do is you want to take your return spring again, slot it into a tiny hole at the front of the pistol, and just let it go so it pushes against the inner barrel. And there's your slide. So to put these back, you just want to take your pistol again, or sorry, your lower receiver, pull back both of these pins, and then put the slide back on. Now just test it and make sure that it goes smoothly, and if you want you can lock it and then test that as well. As you can see, my slide is not as snappy as it was before, and that is because of this return spring. Now this can cause you a lot of problems, like now it is stuck. You just want to try and wiggle it out. There we go. Now that that is out, sometimes this can happen where the return spring is entered incorrectly, like I just did there. I'm not sure what causes that, but you just want to make sure. Just give it a little spin and then try that again. Pull back both of the pins. Now it should be good again. And there we go. There's the snappy slide again. It is a good idea to put in a little bit of gas into the mag just so that the seals are nice and lubricated and do not dry out. The puff dyno gas, they do have silicone added as seen there at the bottom, which is the same thing as this silicone spray. However, this is just silicone. This is a butane silicone mix, which you cannot use this to fire your pistol. Alright, so for this, I have seen that this can make the pistol a bit tacky, and I have had better products which I've used instead of that. Specifically, this 3-in-1 multi-purpose oil, which is a really nice lubricant oil. For something like this, you need a very small amount of oil, and then it will lubricate the internal workings of your pistol. Now, in terms of gun maintenance, you want to make sure that there is no mag in, and you want to make sure that there is no gel in at all. So what you can do is just cock the slide back and shake it out a little bit, and then if there's a gel, it would fall out of this window here. Now, as shown before, just take your slide off, and then you have all the internal workings. But on contact surfaces like these, on the sides, at the back here, and if you pull the trigger and expose the bottom of your hammer housing, you can put a little bit of oil there. Yet again, not much. Pull it forward, lock it in place, and a little bit of oil there. And that should be it for general maintenance. Just make sure that there are no gel shards that can get caught here. In this part here, I have had to clean that out a couple of times now. And then you should just be able to reassemble your pistol, rack it back a couple of times, and then you should be good to go for your next match.
Alrighty, that should be the overview of the WeedTech Glock 19. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to see more tutorials like this, please make sure to subscribe and look out for any future videos. But anyway, have a good rest of your day.